NASA's moon landing on July 20th, 1969 was an extraordinary achievement and a significant milestone in human history. Landing humans on the moon was a remarkable technological achievement, a demonstration of what human ingenuity and perseverance can accomplish. It was the culmination of years of research, development, and testing of new technologies, including the Saturn V rocket and the lunar module. The moon landing allowed scientists to collect and study moon rocks, which helped them better understand the moon's composition and its origins. The mission also provided a wealth of new data about the Earth-Moon system and helped improve our understanding of the solar system as a whole. Interestingly, in recent years, scientists have come forward and detailed what happened during the original launch. The former head of a secret government program, whose task it was to investigate mysterious sightings, came forward with bold claims. They told several media outlets that advanced life may exist. They further said that millions of dollars has been put into the research of exotic technologies affiliated with unidentified aerial phenomena. These headlines caught the attention of many around the world, as for the last 80 years, people have been coming forward with their encounters with mysterious lights in the sky. Some have said, if you're going to believe any reports of mysterious aircrafts, you might as well trust those coming from the men who have actually been to space. The list of those who have made claims of sightings includes Edgar Mitchell, Cady Coleman, and Dr. Brian O'Leary. Buzz Aldrin has also talked about his own experience on board the Apollo 11 module and said the crew saw something flying alongside them. At first, they thought it was the final stage of the detached rocket, until Mission Control confirmed it was 6,000 miles away. Dr. Brian O'Leary, former NASA astronaut, said the following: "There is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been visiting us for a very long time, that their appearance is bizarre from any kind of traditional materialistic Western point of view, that these visitors use the technologies of consciousness. They use toroids. They use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems that seem to be a common denominator of the phenomenon." End quote. After the dawning of the space race, humanity continued very little projects into that of space exploration, and instead used the majority of funds for continued space research. Due to this new initiative, it became imperative for space agencies to establish permanent space stations in space to help with continuing research projects and plans. This led to the creation of the International Space Station, which can be used by all nations and governments in a joint effort to further research in all areas. Of course, attempting to understand a brave new frontier comes with a variety of strange and mysterious circumstances that researchers are still trying to better understand. Though NASA continues to deny a variety of theories surrounding the legitimacy of strange findings and mysterious footage, it appears there are pieces of evidence of strange aircrafts that are so overwhelmingly obvious that NASA has refused to even comment on the subjects. Some examples come straight from that of the continuous live footage of the International Space Station. For those that are unaware, the International Space Station has a variety of cameras to monitor spacewalks and other areas that need to be under 24-hour surveillance. This has allowed the agency to play the live footage on internet shows, websites, and live television broadcasting to help build up an interest in space, gather footage for people to see, or to even take up watching time on the public broadcasting network for the United States under the NASA administration. Recently, there have been numerous events where footage of strange objects floating in the distance has led many to believe it's extraterrestrial in origin. After such incidents are spotted, the footage will later be removed or edited, the live feed will be cut, or the entire incident will be completely ignored by NASA. Recently, these changes have become so apparent that NASA has admitted that the majority of the live feed broadcasted as being live is actually much older than many people believe. In fact, there have been several proven instances by the British broadcasting company of the NASA live footage having been old footage from 2015 played during a 2018 live broadcast. Not only has this helped to build up beliefs by people around the world that there seems to be direct evidence of efforts made to cover up advanced life forms, but it also seems to be direct evidence used by believers that something mysterious is going on. NASA admits that the original moon landing tapes got erased. In 1969, one of the most significant scientific advancements of modern history was made, as man first stepped foot on the moon. Despite the clear importance of such a momentous occasion, the original footage could not be tracked down and was admittedly lost by NASA themselves. In 2005, NASA began to search for the 14 track data tapes that contained and recorded data that was transmitted directly from the moon. When these tapes could not be found, the assumption was that this data had been deleted and the tapes reused after transferring the data elsewhere. This was standard procedure and accepted practice at the time. These tapes included video footage alongside other data collected. On the NASA webpage, the criticism surrounding the sensationalist headlines is addressed, as it's made abundantly clear that this data and information is available and accessible elsewhere. It's only the originals that were not found. The data was passed on to what was the Manned Spacecraft Center, though is now known as the Johnson Space Center, and this was during the mission itself. This, among other locations, recorded the data. However, this questionable cloud had a silver lining. As NASA appeared to be engaged in a battle between the inaccurate headlines of the media, the hunt for the originals overturned higher quality broadcasting containing the video footage. NASA engineer Dick Nafzger and his team stumbled across this find. He said he and his team were desperate to do something for history. Kinescopes were found to have been recorded at the National Archives, and tapes were uncovered that were sent directly from Houston to CBS. Perhaps not in the original form, but the raw data was archived successfully. Following this successful and relieving discovery, NASA began work with a California company to restore and enhance the original footage, improving the definition and image quality, though this also proved to be a problematic move. With a Hollywood company on board, the rumors that the moon landing was faked, staged, or recorded on a military base grew rampant once again. Nafzger said the following: "This company is restoring historic video. It did not tell me where the company was from." End quote. Despite the rich rumors and strange headlines, there does not appear to be missing footage of Apollo 11, simply reformatted and discarded originals. All the information is there.
Aliens could be sucking energy from black holes. One way that we might be able to spot distant extraterrestrials is from their ability to harness the power of black holes, scientists have said in a recent report. The potential that distant alien civilizations could be sucking up the energy from black holes could also mean that we would be able to spot it from millions of miles away. The idea is that a kind of technology that harvests the energy of a black hole could leave traces behind. The evidence of such a technology would exist close by to the black hole's event horizon, which is the threshold at which no matter, not even light, can escape. Some have posited that this scenario could explain examples of plasma flares observed in the past, which have been seen to occur nearby black holes. In fact, a new study published in the journal this year has suggested just that. At the moment, this is all conceptual, but the hope is that eventually we may one day be able to harness such a technology ourselves. Such a possibility could give us a near-endless supply of energy, even if the nearest black hole is over 1,000 light-years away. In a closer timescale, astrophysicists are hopeful that a distant, advanced civilization might use similar energy-capturing methods. Luca Camiso, an astrophysicist from Columbia University, as well as co-author of the recent study, said that the most important stage now is to determine what this sort of energy extraction might look like from great distances, such as from Earth. In a statement to Live Science, Camiso said that it's this exact line of questioning that could help us find far-away alien civilizations. "We have only done the physics in this paper," he said, "but I am now working with a colleague of mine to apply this to reality, to look for civilizations, to try to see what kind of signal you would need to look for." Kepler 70b is hotter than our Sun. We have several methods that we can use to track down exoplanets using varying techniques and equipment. Some of these methods include relying on radial velocity, planetary transits, gravitational microlensing, and pulsar timing. These can all get the job done and clue us in to just where we might find an exoplanet lying, though some methods are easier to use and generally more reliable, namely using planetary transits. Whilst NASA's Transiting Exoplanet Survey satellite is perhaps the main satellite doing the job, it was by no means the first technology of its kind set up to track planetary transits. Back in 2009, NASA launched the now retired Kepler Space Telescope specifically to look for exoplanets roughly the same size as Earth. The telescope uses a photometer to assess how bright stars are. This can be helpful as when a star has regular dips in how bright it is, it can show a planet passing in front of the star in its orbit, indicating that there is indeed an exoplanet orbiting the star. Now, astronomers are able to take this research one step further and use the specific details and small changes in the light to figure out all sorts of information about the candidate planet, including the mass, the speed, the size, and the orbit. This is a useful process, and it is not foolproof as there are other occurrences that can result in the momentarily dimmed brightness of a star, such as sunspots or asteroids passing in front. Overall, the Kepler Space Telescope was a success, mapping out the location of 2,662 exoplanets during its lifetime, from 2009 until 2018. One of the systems confirmed to be found by the Kepler Space Telescope was Kepler 70b, a small planetary system. This had a subdwarf B star, Kepler 70, with two exoplanets, Kepler 70b and Kepler 70c, orbiting it. These exoplanets are both gas giants, not unlike Saturn or Jupiter in our own solar system. Of these two exoplanets, one has been discussed and spoken of much more frequently. We have tried to find conditions like Earth. We have found some far more extreme on Kepler 70b. Let us delve into why Kepler 70b has conditions quite as extreme as it does. The answer lies in the exoplanet's past. The Kepler 70 star was once a main sequence star, albeit 18.4 million years ago as it turned into a red giant stage of the star life cycle. The star pulled the two planets in, engulfing them, swallowing them. We do not know how the two exoplanets somehow managed to survive this experience or whether or not they had an impact upon the star itself. What we do know, however, is that somehow, against all odds, there are two exoplanets that have had any sort of atmosphere they might have once had torn away and are left as two burning hot cores. The sky-high temperatures of Kepler 70b, due to the lack of atmosphere, the incredibly close distance to its host star Kepler 70, the hot conditions of Kepler 70 itself, and its orbit taking just 345 minutes compared to Earth's 365 days, all make it clear that there is not likely life lurking on this exoplanet. The conditions of this exoplanet are fascinating. Exoplanets might only seem interesting when they may contain life. To gain more of an insight into how the different planets and stars without our universe has formed is invaluable information. Astrophysicist discovers numerous multiple star systems with exoplanets. The search for life outside of Earth is so relentless because there are so many possibilities beyond our own solar system. In fact, there are thousands of other stars besides our Sun with planets in orbit around it, including more than 4,000 exoplanets. This number greatly increases the odds of finding extraterrestrial life, and it seems that the number of exoplanets is only growing. Dr. Marcus Muggrauer, an astrophysicist with Friedrich Schiller University Jena, has recently discovered and characterized several previously unknown star systems containing exoplanets, and his published study has sent waves through the astronomical community. To obtain these results, Muggrauer searched through 1,300 host star systems in the search for hidden companion stars associated with the host star. He explained his process by saying, multiple star systems are very common in our Milky Way. If such systems include planets, they are of particular interest to astrophysics, because the planetary systems in them can differ from our solar system in fundamental ways. Essentially, Muggrauer was searching for the vicinity of thousands of already known host stars in the hopes that they would have an associated companion star that also had orbiting exoplanets. He used the Gaia Space Telescope operated by the European Space Agency in his search, which ultimately turned up fascinating results due to the precise data that he was able to collect. Muggrauer's search revealed the previously hidden existence of over 200 companion stars. The data that he collected allowed him to precisely categorize these new discoveries, which spanned a wide variety as to type and distance. Most of the companion stars varied considerably in their mass, temperature, and evolutionary stage, and some were located up to 1,600 light-years away from the Sun. The team also discovered that, although most of the study's star systems with associated exoplanets were two-star systems, there were a significant amount that were arranged in a hierarchical triple-star system, and even one that appeared to be a quadruple star system. The distance that these companion stars are from each other was also heavily studied, as they could tell us information about how planets are formed under different gravitational influences. They discovered that, of the distances investigated, 15% of stars have at least one companion star, which is a much lower frequency than expected. These companion stars are also up to 5 times further apart than normal systems. McGraw says, these two factors taken together could indicate that the influence of several stars in a star system disrupts the process of planet formation as well as the further development of their orbits. In addition, we will combine the results with those of an international observational campaign, which we are currently conducting on the same topic at the Perennial Observatory of the European Southern Observatory in Chile. We will then be able to investigate the precise influence of stellar multiplicity on the formation and development of planets. One thing is for sure, this astonishing discovery is sure to lead to even more discoveries about the universe in the very near future.
DNA is a molecule that contains the genetic instructions used in the development and functioning of all living organisms. It's a long, double-stranded helix composed of 4 different types of nucleotides: adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine. The sequence of these nucleotides determines the genetic code of an organism, which governs everything from its physical traits to its biochemical processes. DNA is located in the nucleus of a cell and is responsible for the transmission of genetic information from one generation to the next. Contact with extraterrestrial life is a highly debated topic, not just within scientific and academic circles. Tons of research efforts have been poured into looking to contact alternate life forms or even locate life elsewhere, and plenty have questioned if contacting advanced life forms would be a wise idea. That is, if they are there at all. However, research developments in DNA sequencing have pushed people to ask the question, could aliens be communicating to us through the DNA of bacteria? This theory has actually been in discussion for decades, with members of the search for extraterrestrial intelligence posing some interesting insights. Despite these debates having existed for a while, these concepts and ideas were largely hypothetical, though following the sequencing of the human genome, marked in 2003 with the completion of the Human Genome Project, we know we are able to look for patterns within DNA strands. We know that bacteria in space have a long travel life and are capable of being fired great distances, even light years away from where they began. This means that bacteria could act as good hosts for messages, with aliens being able to send messages to us from afar. Trusting their notes will make it a good way through the universe. Robert Zubrin spoke at the Breakthrough Discuss in 2019 conference at the University of California to discuss the plausibility of communicating through encoded DNA. It's important to note that he is also an astronautical engineer. He said, whilst explaining how the tiny microbial bacteria could break the gravitational force of the stars they reside with, that FG and K spectral type stars could allow bacteria to break away. These stars are typically the brighter ones in the sky. He goes on to explain that other stars may struggle to push the bacteria outside of their own solar systems, preventing the interstellar space travel needed to receive alien codes. However, Zubrin did cite a paper that theorized that if a bacterial colony was strongly magnetized, then it could create a miniature magnetic sail. This gives the bacteria the potential to gain a 500 km per second solar wind, enough to move it out of the solar system with ease. Of course, this is all hypothetical, and there are a great number of other theories, speculating as to how this is possible at all. Unfortunately, there are not any certain answers. In regard to the content of these possible messages, we know based on research conducted a little closer to home that we are able to encode bacterial DNA with information. The New York Genome Project was able to encode 215,000 terabytes of information per gram of DNA. An individual bacterium usually ranges between 1 and 10 millionths of a meter, giving plenty of room to code in a bacterial colony. As of 2019, it was considered realistic to encode some with 900 terabytes of data, which, when given some context, is ginormous. Zubrin likens this data size to 2 billion 200-page books. Zubrin suggests that the next step in this research is to begin looking for encoded microbes around us. He suggests exposing bacteria to, as he describes, space conditions, to see which bacterium would be best suited and adapted for flight and to survive in various conditions. Any anomalous microbes in our stratosphere could be worth further investigation. By the time we figure out any DNA codes, it could be equivalent to uncovering an ancient artifact. NASA found a strange radio signal coming from Venus. Even though scientists are always on the lookout for strange or seemingly inexplicable phenomena when venturing through space, when they do encounter odd or mysterious happenings, they are frequently not at all what they expected to find. Recently, NASA's Parker Solar Probe entered the upper atmosphere of Earth's neighbor Venus in order to collect data about the planet, and the probe detected odd radio signals coming from the atmosphere. And, while those of us unfamiliar with the inner workings of space might immediately jump to the conclusion that these could be signals from an alien race living on the planet, the true meaning is something altogether more exciting, at least for scientists studying space, that is. These radio signals that were detected are naturally occurring within the atmosphere of Venus and indicate that the Parker Solar Probe, flying over 830 kilometers above the planet, had entered the outer atmosphere, specifically an upper layer known as the ionosphere. Remarkably, the last time that anyone had been able to detect radio readings from Venus's upper atmosphere was almost 30 years ago, in 1992, which means that this new data will be able to give researchers valuable insight into the changes that have occurred on the planet in the intervening years. This is especially valuable as the unforgiving heat of Venus's atmosphere makes the planet incredibly hard to explore and study. So, what did the researchers discover about the planet that was different than in 1992? For starters, the atmosphere appears to be much thinner than the last time that data was gathered. Researchers believe that this is due to the fact that the sun's magnetic poles mysteriously swap places every 11 years as a result of the star's solar cycles. Before the magnetic poles switch, the sun's magnetic field weakens and then flares back to its maximum strength before fading again into the next switch. Because the earlier 1992 measurement was taken during a time in the solar cycle when the magnetic field was close to the maximum, and the current reading is while we are approaching the solar minimum, scientists hypothesize that the ionosphere of Venus is changing with the solar cycle and may be greatly influenced by the sun's magnetic fields. Although why this is happening is unclear, scientists hope that future data gathered from the planet will help to clue them in.
Physicists may have found a way to create traversable wormholes. The rules of the universe are fairly fixed, and the aim of some of the greatest areas of science is to try and understand what these rules are. Fun favourite sci-fi tropes often like to toy with these rules and play with the ideas of what if they were not there. It's this kind of rule-breaking that leads to ideas like getting lost in wormholes and the fun space-themed dangers we see on the big screen. In reality, the idea of wormholes could exist, in the rules laid out by the general theory of relativity and the standard model of physics, but these were not traversable, meaning you cannot move through them. That is, until now. A wormhole is a theoretical structure. The idea is to think of it like a tunnel, where the two ends represent different points in space-time. This means that you go into the wormhole and emerge in the same place at a different point in time, or at the same point in time at a different place, or at a different point in time and in a different place. People are still speculating whether wormholes could possibly exist. Sure, they do not go against the ideas of the general theory of relativity, but we certainly have never seen any. In 2021, a team of physicists working at Princeton found a loophole in this wormhole theory. With the ideas laid out through quantum mechanics in a 5-dimensional universe, it could be possible, according to these researchers, to create a wormhole large enough for a human spacecraft to travel through and could spit out the astronauts on the other side of the universe. However, this idea is purely confined to the mathematical and theoretical world. It is highly unlikely for something like this to naturally exist, and our modern technology is nowhere near advanced enough to facilitate something this complex. The idea that wormholes may exist and that they could be traveled through is truly so fascinating, though it does not seem like we will be skipping around the universe anytime soon. missing black hole with 10 billion solar masses. When it comes to space, there is one thing that we have all heard about: black holes. Books, movies, and TV love to feature this celestial phenomenon. Though our grasp of understanding is rather tenuous, it seems that a black hole exists at the very center of each galaxy, drawing anything and everything into it with its unparalleled gravitational pull. As such, it seems that keeping track of black holes would be the easy part. If they are so huge, monumental, and powerful, how could one go missing? Even so, that is exactly what happened with this black hole. About a decade ago, Dr. Mark Postman, a member of the Space Telescope Science Institute, was surveying surrounding galaxies with the famous Hubble Space Telescope. While surveying, Dr. Postman found a supergiant galaxy now referred to as A2261 BCG, with no black hole at the center. Indeed, the finding was exceedingly strange. An expert of galactic nuclei at the National Optical Infrared Astronomy Research Laboratory in Tucson, Arizona, Todd Lauer, added that the absence of the black hole was really unusual. According to everything we know about black holes, this supergiant galaxy must have one at its center. This black hole is expected to house 10 billion solar masses, while the black hole at the center of our own galaxy, the Milky Way, has only 4 billion. It seems impossible and unfathomable that a black hole of this size has simply evaded notice or attention. So what exactly is happening? Using the ideas postulated by three astronomers, Mitchell Begelman, Martin Rees, and Robert Blandford, one theory says that A2261 BCG originally had two black holes that eventually combined and turned into nothing. Of course, if the burst was unequal on both sides, the impact could have sent one of the black holes flying through the galaxy. However, after analysing and surveying A2261 BCG even further, scientists found something interesting. The diffuse core of the galaxy seems to house 4 little knots of light, causing some to think that the black hole's gravitational pull is keeping them there. Sarah Birks-Ballor of West Virginia University led a surveying team with the hopes of untangling what the 4 knots could be. They found that 2 of them were most likely 2 smaller galaxies existing inside the main galaxy. Hubble was unable to provide enough details on the other 2 knots to reach a sound conclusion. Luckily, Hubble's successor, the James Webb Space Telescope, was launched in late 2021. Astronomers are hopeful that a telescope of this power and magnitude will be able to describe the 4 knots in detail and tell us the location of the missing black hole. Despite how improbable it seems that a black hole housing 10 billion solar masses could evade detection for so long, it just goes to show that outer space holds more mysteries than we ever thought.
Mysteries of the universe are colossal. Some perhaps even stretch beyond our understanding. Still, humanity seeks new lengths, new advancements, and new knowledge to achieve the impossible, and someday understand everything there is. Artificial intelligence is being used extensively in science to accelerate research, make predictions, analyze data, and model complex systems. In biology and genetics, artificial intelligence is being used to analyze massive amounts of genetic data to find patterns and predict diseases. Artificial intelligence is revolutionizing how science is done by enabling researchers to process and analyze vast amounts of data quickly and accurately, making predictions and designing new experiments and treatments. Our DNA is what allows us to be the distinctive and individual beings that we are, and is the driving force behind both the similarities and differences of each unique human. Because changes and random mutations within DNA are the driving forces behind both evolution and genetic diseases, researchers have spent countless dollars and hours attempting to uncover the mysteries hiding within the coding of our DNA. Studying mutations is a bit of a double-edged sword that has perplexed scientists for decades because of the paradoxical nature of evolution and disease. On one hand, mutations within the genetic coding material are typically detrimental to function and disrupt the normal flow of body systems. So how can certain mutations affect the individual in such a positive way that entirely new species can be generated over time? This is a question that has plagued scientists for years, but it seems that an answer has finally been proposed. Research led by Jerne Uhl a professor of molecular neuroscience with University College London, has put forward an answer to this question. The research team behind this revelation discovered a code hidden within the part of our genetic material known as repetitive genetic elements, which are DNA sequences that our cells can continually make many copies of. Over time, this repetition has included itself thousands of times in our genome, which is a phenomenon that is unique to the human species and has been shown to play a vital role in evolution. The repetitive elements can switch on and off, controlling which characteristics are presented in an individual, allowing for the slow, continual evolution of the species as favorable traits are selectively chosen and propagated. The code that the research team found within these repetitive genetic elements could help to explain how these pieces of DNA are used to mitigate the potential disruptions of genetic mutations that could be favorable to the species. It works as a sort of molecular balancing act of positive and negative forces, working through proteins to control whether mutations within repetitive elements remain and are slowly integrated into the DNA or are removed. If a mutation causes too much of the positive force, the negative force steps in and removes it, and vice versa. This complicated but harmonious process allows mutations to exist quietly in our genetic code, harmlessly accumulating further mutations until the inherent code is slightly altered enough that the repetitive element takes on a meaningful function, furthering evolution. In contrast, a genetic disorder is a mutation that happens rapidly, disrupting body systems as the affected code can no longer optimally interact with the unaltered elements of the genetic material. This research is groundbreaking, as it helps to explain why evolution is such a long process occurring over an indefinitely long period of time. Our genes are not slowly changing in order to move towards evolution one code at a time, but rather operating under a facilitation and inhibition process that allows for fluid changes to be slowly integrated, providing that the balance between the associated genetic code is also present for maximum continued function. Despite the fact that the inherent mechanisms of disease and evolution are the same, researchers now understand a bit more about why evolution operates to effectively and successfully propel a species forward, while similar mutations occurring alone in an individual will result in discord and dysfunction. Artificial intelligence studies the human genome and finds unknown human ancestors. As amazing and wonderful as the human brain is, sometimes there are things that it simply cannot tell us about ourselves without a little extra help. One of the things that scientists rely on artificial intelligence for is extensive analysis of both human and animal genomes to determine relationships and attempt to track the pattern of evolution through the millennium. Recently, one of these artificial intelligence studies discovered the presence of a strange ghost population that predated the human species that we are today. The analysis, which was performed by artificial intelligence using machine learning technology, looked at 8 of the current leading models of theorized human evolution and discovered traces of an unknown human ancestor that likely mated with the Homo sapiens of Asia and Oceania. This mysterious population of ancestors was hidden until now because the only thing remaining to hint at its presence are small, virtually indistinguishable fragments of DNA that remain interspersed within modern human DNA, and it was not until machine learning pointed it out to us that scientists were even aware of its presence. This unidentified ghost population appears to be a descendant of interbreeding between the Neanderthals and the Denisovans. Remarkably, the 90,000-year-old fossilized remains of a girl appearing to be the only example of the result of a first-generation mixing between a Neanderthal and Denisovan was discovered recently, leading scientists to wonder whether she was a forerunner to this newly identified ghost population. The Denisovans themselves were only discovered and catalogued as a species a decade ago, making these subsequent discoveries missing pieces to a very recent puzzle. Scientists have long understood that the early humanoid species mated with other species as they spread across the globe and encountered each other. Over time, these species gave rise to new species and then went extinct as the modern Homo sapiens evolved. However, identifying the smaller populations that arose from this, such as the unions between the Neanderthals and Denisovans, has proven exceedingly difficult. This recent artificial intelligence discovery, pointing to a distinct ancestor of both Neanderthal and Denisovan origins, has allowed scientists to begin to understand how introgressions between ancient species caused diversions in the human genome that allowed the painstaking evolution into the first modern-day Homo sapiens to occur. Artificial intelligence was able to make this discovery because of its ability to identify locations of high divergence in the human genome, to indicate locations of potential introgressions between species, and further compare the genetic material at these locations, a task that would be almost impossibly painstaking otherwise. This is only the latest in a series of examples demonstrating the usefulness of artificial intelligence in genetic research because of the ability to utilize machine learning to accurately analyze and compare millions upon millions of pieces of ancient DNA with the DNA of modern humans, identifying patterns and connections that otherwise would have gone unnoticed. This has allowed scientists to begin the process of resolving some of the questions that have previously been left unanswered in order to piece together our ancient origins. Did our DNA come from space rocks? The building blocks of our DNA have been discovered in space rocks, begging the question, did our DNA come from space rocks? It's possible that cosmic impacts brought the ingredients needed to create life on Earth. DNA is made up of 4 vital ingredients. For years, scientists wondered if meteorites could have brought these ingredients to Earth. However, until now, only adenine and guanine had been detected, not thymine, cytosine, or uracil. Nucleobases come in 2 forms, called purines and pyrimidines. For a long time, only purines were seen in meteorites, and pyrimidines seemed to be missing in action. The main difference between the two is that purines are made from a hexagonal molecule fused with a pentagonal one, while pyrimidines are smaller and are made from just the hexagonal molecule. Scientists have now been able to find all the purines and pyrimidines that are in DNA and RNA in the meteorites that arrived on Earth. According to the astrochemist who led the study, Yasuhiro Oba, the presence of the 5 primary nucleobases in meteorites may have a contribution to the emergence of genetic functions before the onset of life on the early Earth. The methods used in this study to detect the nucleobases demonstrate the incredible scientific advancements that have been made in recent years. The researchers used techniques that were originally designed for genetic and pharmaceutical research that are able to detect nucleobases down to the range of parts per trillion. The techniques used were at least about 10 to 100 times greater in sensitivity than previous techniques to detect pyrimidines in meteorites. The samples analyzed in this study were from 3 carbon-rich meteorites that had been previously suspected of having the capability to host chemical reactions that created nucleobases. Although it's still unknown why purines were much more abundant in the meteorites than pyrimidines, one clue could be that purines contain a pentagonal ring called imidazole, while pyrimidines do not. Imidazole can behave as a catalyst to set off chemical reactions, which could explain why purines were so much more prevalent on these meteorites than pyrimidines. Whatever the reason for this discrepancy, one thing is for certain: this study could be a breakthrough in understanding how life formed on Earth. Although these discoveries are incredible, scientists have said that artificial intelligence can be dangerous if it is not developed, used, and controlled responsibly. Researchers have said that algorithms can perpetuate and amplify human biases if they are trained on biased data or designed with biased objectives. AI has the potential to automate many jobs, leading to significant job displacement and social inequality. Artificial intelligence can be used by malicious actors to launch cyber attacks, such as hacking and identity theft. Scientists and researchers who are involved in these studies have said that it's crucial to recognize these risks and take measures to mitigate them. This includes developing systems that are transparent, explainable, and unbiased. It also involves ensuring that AI development adheres to ethical principles and that regulations and laws govern their use. As long as artificial intelligence is developed and used with caution and responsibility, it can be a powerful tool that benefits society. When scientists were asked if artificial intelligence would take over, they said that it's very unlikely that artificial intelligence will take over humanity, saying that it's a tool created and controlled by humans, and its actions and decisions are determined by the algorithms and data it is programmed with. While AI has the potential to surpass human intelligence in specific tasks, it does not have the ability to become self-aware, conscious, or have human-like motivations. Moreover, ethical principles, regulations, and laws govern the development and use of artificial intelligence to ensure its safe and responsible use. AI development is progressing rapidly, but it's still a long way from becoming a self-aware and autonomous entity capable of taking over humanity. However, it's crucial to ensure that artificial intelligence is developed and used ethically, transparently, and for the benefit of society. We need to ensure that AI is aligned with human values and does not cause harm or violate privacy rights. As long as we develop and use AI with caution and responsibility, it is unlikely that it will take over humanity. When it comes to scientific discoveries, research possesses the unique ability to look at once forward and backward. As questions are answered about where we came from and how our ancestors came to be in the first place, we can apply this knowledge to the future and look towards ever bigger and brighter dreams and discoveries. So, what do you make of these incredible discoveries? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comment section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.